Hi, I'm James Patterson and welcome to another Photoshop tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to combine these two images here to create a retro effect that looks something like this. So let's start by opening both of these images into Photoshop. So if I hold Command or Control and click on both of them and then double click, that will open them up for me. And the first thing I want to do is bring in my old border on top of this image. So if I click on my border and then go to Select All, and I'm going to press Command or Control and C to copy that, and then go back to my couple, press Command or Control and V to paste in that layer. And you can see that the proportions aren't quite right, so let me grab my Move tool, and I want to make sure I have Auto Select and Show Transform controls. If I have those boxes checked, that helps me to make these adjustments. So I'm going to pick it up and just drag it upwards slightly. Let's bring the opacity down slightly so we can see the image underneath that we're going to be trying to match it to. And then I'm going to grab my marquee selection tool, and if I just draw a selection like this, maybe move it down slightly, and then I'm going to press Shift and F6 to bring up my feather box. Let's type in a feathering of about 10. This will blend the edges of my selection so that when I try and copy this selection to another layer to move the sizing around, it will allow me to do it with a transition that helps me to kind of merge the two layers together. So let's press Command or Control and J to copy that selection to a new layer, and then I'm just going to drag it down using my Move tool again so that it comes down to the bottom there. Let's bring the opacity of these two layers back up to 100, and then I'm going to go to my top layer and press Command or Control and E to merge those two layers. You see that's given me a bit of a line effect down here, but I'm not too worried about that because the next step is to change the blend mode of this layer to lighten. So if I go up here in my layers panel and go to lighten, and you can see how that's working. Next I'm going to go back into Bridge, and you can see I have a couple of different textures here. So I have a grey texture here and a red texture. If I hold Control or Command and click on them, then if I double click again, that will open them both up into Photoshop. And I'm going to copy these into my image using the same method that we used copying the border. Let's go to Select All and then Command or Control and C. Let's go back to my couple, Command or Control and V, and let's do the same for this one. Select All, Command or Control and C, Command or Control and V. And there you can see that gives me these two texture layers in my layers panel here. Let's go ahead and rename these layers just to save any confusion. So let's call this one border, call this one grey, call this one red. And next I want to change the blend mode of these two texture layers. So I'm going to go to my blend mode options here and choose overlay. Let's do the same for grey. And then I'm going to bring the opacity of both layers down to about 65, just to allow some detail to show through. I also want to maybe tone down the effect in the middle of the frame to allow their faces to show through a little bit more. So I'm going to do that by adding a layer mask. Let's click on the Add Layer Mask icon in the Layers panel, and I'm going to grab a brush and with black as my foreground colour, just paint a few strokes over their faces just to tone down the effect there. Let's do the same thing on my grey layer. Let's add a layer mask and again just paint a few strokes, something like that. And next I want to create the effect of a light leak coming in from the side of the frame. I'm going to do this on a new layer, so let's go and create a new layer in my layers panel over here by clicking this icon, and I'm going to draw a gradient. So let's grab my gradient tool and I want to choose a suitable colour. Well, let's choose a nice burnt orange, something like that. Looks pretty good to me. And I want to go up to my gradient options up here and choose the option that has the orange coming into transparency, like this one here. And I'm going to draw a line from the corner down into the image like this with my gradient tool. And you can see how that's given me a gradient applied from that corner. Then I'm going to go to my blend mode options here in my layers panel and choose color dodge. And all I need to do then is lower the opacity slightly just to tone it down. something like that. You can see how that's working. So I think we're nearly there. I'm just going to finish by adding a couple of adjustment layers to alter the colours slightly. So let's go down to the create new adjustment layer icon here in my layers panel. I'll click on that and I'm going to choose hue saturation, and I'm just going to knock the saturation back to about -30 just to dull the colours down a little bit. Then I'm going to add another adjustment layer and choose photo filter, and this gives me options for a few different types of filter. I'm going to choose warming filter 81 and bring my density up to about 40. I think looks good. And now I'm just going to apply a couple of finishing touches. You can see at the bottom here my background image is showing through where I've set my border to lighten mode, so I can sort that problem out by going back to my background, and if I grab my brush with black set in my foreground and just paint over that line, you can see that's allowing the border detail to show through. And if I go to my border layer, I can also see I've duplicated this little patch here, so I'm going to grab my patch tool, and if I draw around that area there and just drag it down, you can see that's sorted that problem out. So there we have it. That's the finished effect. Have a go yourself.